And we're going to get started with Pamela and Right to Be Seen.
How's everyone this morning?
Awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you. I want to thank you all for being here to help support me in sharing my unique perspectives on ways to impact positive change in the world around us. My name is Pamela Belitch. I am a youth mentor, a mental health advocate, and a creative writing teacher by trade. I manage a nonprofit called Right to Be Seen, Inc. We are a teen theater production company that serves ages 12 through 19. We're focused in Orlando in Orange County. What we do is a specific type of theater called devised theater. Devising is just a big word that means creating something new. So we invite youths from all different backgrounds who may never have known each other previously, different cultural identities, different communities, and we invite them to come together to create their own new plays, short group skits, and they do this without the use of a script. So they do not know the characters, the main ideas, who's playing what roles until they all get together and create it together as a group. We have performance workshops where they create the skits and play them back to just each other. This is the emotional processing work. And then we rehearse the plays and we perform them back to a general audience, the public and just their local communities. Our purpose is to have the teens right to be seen, to have their own words heard, to have them practice to self-advocate, to be seen, and to feel accepted for it. Now, why I do this? These kids are my why. This is some examples of the past teens that I've worked with. These are all folks who are coming from Title I schools, low income, high crime rate areas, or from geographic locations that have been statistically labeled as at risk of their youths entering the juvenile justice system for factors such as high teen pregnancy rates, high school dropout rates, low academic grades, low attendance rates in schools, single parent homes, involvement in gang violence, all factors which can in part, at least in part, be addressed by providing youth with a support system. A place where they can really just feel like these are their cheerleaders, these are all peers, non-judgment zone, they're coming together to really just be listened to and to have their own words believed. So they'll be practicing emotional processing in these spaces where they then don't need to look for outlets outside of that, which may be less healthy, less productive, ways that may cause harm either to themselves or within their communities somewhere down the line. So we create our group skits by asking what's a topic you're focusing on, what is this causing you to think or to feel, what do you want to have happen next, and what might that look like? Show me. And so to be able to do this again in a group of your peers is really what has been like my cheerleaders for myself. That's what the performing arts have always been for me personally growing up. And for this video, thank you so much, Scott, for playing a short clip for us. It's just one example of how it's been helping our kids as well.
Yeah, advance.
Yes. This was for my first theater production. Let's go ahead.
Because this program has really grown my baby apples. I didn't know what to do. I did not know what to do to get her from her shyness, being an introvert, just, being closed in. I didn't know what to do. I just see her growing. I see her just blossom, being in programs like this, getting your child in programs like this. And I know she accomplished anything she put her mind to. Yeah. Her friend Delaney, I love you, girl. I see that she's coming out her shell. Like she is, you doing your thing, Delaney. And I am so proud of every one of you guys, and I felt every one of these stories. I felt every one of them. And was just.
I do want to talk about what is next for me within this organization. Within 2 weeks from now, we have been invited to present to the Advisory Board of Parks and Rec for a venue subsidy grant for our next play. This will be called Pinder's Kids. It is based on the true story of a youth pastor here in Orlando who led a group of June's high school students during the civil rights era and peaceful protests for desegregation. And so these kids will all be playing back the true experiences of those teens, and these were based on oral history reports. My language this morning, I promise I'm awake. From the Orange County Regional History Center, and the playwright worked there at the time when they were doing an exhibit for a civil rights project. They put up the play as part of the exhibit there. It was back in 2007, and when the playwright found me, he had asked me to help him to reproduce the story. So for the venue subsidy, it will be $1,500 from the grant. It will total us $1,750 to run the rehearsals and performance within this venue. This is at the Grand Avenue Community Center in the Paramore District. I want to host the show here because Jones High School is in Paramore, and I want to bring out also the community that's local who may not have otherwise access to theater, and to have the parents and the adults see ways that their youth can participate in theater in non-traditional ways. So we are primarily a theater for non-actors. We are not a technical skills training program. As you can see, I'm a writer. I'm not so much a performer myself. But what we do provide is we provide instructors who are trauma informed, who have themselves lived experiences with overcoming adversity, and or with having professional skills, being paid to do what they love within performing arts or teaching the fine arts within their communities. So within this space, we want to run 2 times a week for an 8-week period. It's going to be a $50 per hour, and then as well it's going to be a $50 flat fee for GL insurance while we're there, and a $100 refundable security deposit. We'll have $250 left over after the grant that will either have to be paid out of pocket from myself or from generous donors like you. However, also the funding we can get from the end of this performance is through our ticket sales. I'm going to charge a suggested donation, $25 per seat. That's looking at about a 200-seat theater, as well as from t-shirt sales. We can also do merchandise of my personal chapbooks, which are self-published on Amazon. They're called Speak. They're from my experiences within the spoken word community as a competitive slam poet, is why I created that chapbook in the first place. So I want all sales to go back to the nonprofit organization. As far as other production elements that the donation sales can go toward would be things like spectacle elements like makeup, props, and set designs. Most of these elements we will look to crowdsource from the community, the folks who are within our cast and crew, or in-kind donations, or through volunteer labor. I will also have a few other things that there's definitely opportunities for you guys as a community to help out with within my organization, but I will leave it to the end of questions. Thank you.
You have a contact slide?
My email up here.
Up there, okay.
And then again, the website will be righttobeseen.org.
All right. So we're going to open it up to questions. We're going to start with Eric.
How do you get a lot of your funding to do all this? You've done this for several years. So how do you keep it going?
I started in 2019. So I am not, that's one of the things the community can assist with when we get those kind of folks on our team and our board. I am not a salesperson. The first production, I honestly worked for 6 months without pay, just because growing up in my lifestyle and my lack of resources, I was just fearful about if I asked someone for it, they're gonna say no. But I was I knew that I wanted it for the community. But the last 2 years, we've worked under a county grant through the Citizens Commission for Children. And so with the start of the fiscal year, that funding has actually run out. And so we would be back to zero with that, which is why we're pitching for the venue funding. Otherwise, our funding has all come from public donations. Another program we have going on right now is called the Outslam, Orlando's Underground Teens. And we get donations from the general public to sponsor our $50 cash prize for the events once per month. That will go toward the first place winner, and that's all teens' original work, performing spoken word. And we have a different theme per month just to help with idea generation. Tell me if I'm running too long because Deja has a question. Did I answer yours?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, I was just wondering, how do you find your participants?
Yes. So we find them through other youth advocacy agencies, mainly mentor organizations that we've partnered. We've partnered with a few in the past who are in the Pine Hills area, or we partner with the ones who are generally in the location where we want to work. We've been non-brick and mortar, so we want to, in the future, have our home base where we can sort of generate more foot traffic and just let people know this is where we'll always be year-round services. We want that to be within the Pine Hills Multicultural Center, which is a new space. But for now, we meet other mentor groups who just have a heart for the same kind of work. Mostly in the past, we've done work with their own kids. Those groups that are bigger, like 20 to 30 kids, it will be because they've already been around doing the work for about 4 years out within collecting their own kids. That sounds bad, but within, having to work within their own community. So new for this year with this program, especially, I want to just have it as a way for more people to know about us and that we can sort of start to get our own teen troop core group of like 7 to 10 minimum that they want to continue to be doing the work within our own program and hopefully grow from there.
Just amazing what you are doing.
Thank you.
Amazing cause. Do you have contacted Mark Brewer?
I don't know.
We'll talk about it. I think there are a lot of people who will help you out. Other things will help you out in the presentation also.
Yes, I do. One of the things I would like is if you guys could give me some brutal feedback as far as some of these elements I will be sharing in the Parks and Rec pitch. So this is the first time that I've written this presentation. Obviously, I will have to tailor it a bit differently when I'm speaking to the board.
You have a great story.
Yes.
Everything is in a story. You have an amazing story. We'll help you out presenting it.
Yeah, and I'd like to, if you want to put a video, and I want other people to listen to this as well, if you're putting videos in your presentation, make it so that you don't have to have internet connection to have the video. Make it so that it just works. They actually recommend highly against putting videos in these presentations because you don't ever know if there's gonna have to be an internet, funky or if getting on YouTube is always kind of funky. So with that, Bear, do you have a question?
Do you work with Teen Challenge? Have you heard about it? Have you worked with Osceola County with Karen Wooster? Give it a name.
Don't know these.
She had a huge program with same what you do many years ago. 450 people. They were all dropout kids, at risk. It was a huge community thing in Osceola County. So I was just curious.
Yep.
Done anything so fundraising things? There's some grants that are available through like Google and some other products for nonprofits. Have you looked into any of those? They can help you with automating your fundraising a little, so you don't have to.
We've received like the Parks and Rec grant that I'm pitching for, and we've also received the United Arts grant in the past. And I honestly had to rescind them from not getting enough youth participants to run the program this year. We have had about 20 register. One thing I'm concerned about is not coming from a sales strategy background is the dropout rates and youth retention, because we're gonna launch it the 2nd of April. So if any of you have advice about that as well, just ways to we're gonna continue recruiting. We've been recruiting through casting call boards as well as through our website through Eventbrite. Yes.
I've got a quick question for you. Can you tell us about your business structure and your team? You've mentioned we a couple times, so we'd like to hear about your team and why they are part of of your team?
Well, so I've worked in the past with a consulting firm that's called 180 Degrees. It's actually a student college organization based in MSU, Michigan State University. And they helped a lot with the messaging clarity and redesigning the web layout. But I also currently have a volunteer intern through UCF. She is working with my social media management, helping a bit more with the communications and promo side. These folks are new to the organization. For the majority of the time, I've been running as Chief Everything Officer, just from my background, not really understanding how to build the correct team. And so even with my grants, I started it backwards. I got the team on paper just to get the grant funding to start the projects, and then we're looking to rebuild from there. So my board, I'd be looking for folks who, like, I guess if I had to speak more in business terms, it would be like the CMO, COO, CFO, someone who's the treasurer who would be able to like help with that budgeting piece, because I'm very arts brained and not a math person, to sort of just take that off my shoulders, those types of examples. But all the success of the organization, we've had outside contractors like the teaching artists who are coming into the program. But aside from that and my volunteers, I've done this all on my own. So I'm really just looking at this point to have the team behind me that's going to help it to get to scale.
And you're set up as a 501c3?
Yes.
Okay. Denny and then Rupert.
One of the things that you can do is you can get interns for free from UCF, Rollins, probably Wednesday, all the schools that'll help you write grants. What you've got is really appealing. From that standpoint, you just need people that can constantly put in the grants for you. They can do that.
So I have a question and I want to make a statement. So when did you start coming to 1 Million Cups?
In 2019, when I was starting my organization.
Okay.
And so I actually, like, a lot of the resources that I was able to get for my company came directly through 1 Million Cups.
So I'm not going to go into details, but when we first met you, and to the transition that you've made from then till now is breathtaking.
Thank you so much.
I will echo that.
So I'd like to think that your entrepreneurial journey has been your way, your therapy, and your way to get you to this point, and the sky's the limit. So well done.
I do also want to mention real quick, we just got a collaboration with a group called PR Paid Forward, which will be out of Rollins College as well. So they're going to help with pro bono for that kind of thing.
Orlandopreneur would like to sponsor you. So.
Tammy, and then I've got the final question.
Quick question, is there any way that you can build incentives into your program to keep the team retention?
I'm gonna say yes. I haven't thought of what those would be, like how to package that.
Because I wonder if there's some incentive that will keep them a little bit longer.
If you might be able to bounce ideas on it, come speak with me.
Okay.
Well, and a wonderful testimony to what you're doing, a wonderful testimony to 1 Million Cups. Thank you very much for that. You've seen that there are introductions that can be made or resources that can be made. Otherwise, specifically, is there anything else that we as the Orlando 1 Million Cups community can do for you?
I'm gonna check on my notes if there's anything I haven't mentioned. We would be all caught up as far as other things. Yes.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Pamela.
From the website, there's a sponsorships tab, and actually the donate button there actually leads you to the paypal.me, but you can also donate to that tagline, Right to Be Seen, without the .org part. You can donate to Right to Be Seen on Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal on our off the website. So.
Fantastic.
Any threads?
Great. What happened on July 13th, 2021? I got a call from the CEO. I was in the airport in Boise on my way to visit my brother and his brand new baby. So the phone rings. Andrea, he said, everything's gone to hell. Brad's about to quit. Your team caused this problem and you need to get in here and fix it. Oh. My consulting company had put an ERP system in with this firm 6 weeks prior. Brad was the president of the company, and he had a vision to grow the company, increase profits. He had a plan which included about 30 projects that he told us his team could execute without us. So we left. After I got this call and got to visit my brother, I called up Brad, made an appointment to see him the next Monday morning. When I got into his office, he looked terrible. Told me he hadn't been sleeping, he'd been jumping into the business, he was working all the time. Turns out his team was not aligned to his 30 project plan, and they were not able to get the work done. And Brad was suffering because of it. They had $3.4 million in backlog of invoices that they had to get out in the next 10 weeks before the end of their fiscal. And he had 2 big potential customers he wanted to visit, but he couldn't because he was spending all his time in the business. Actually, Brad is not alone. 70% of projects fail. And truly, this affects small, medium businesses and hurts them the most. So, what if we could rewind back to June, when Brad had his plan and told me he knew his team could execute without help? What if Brad could have known whether his team could have executed his plan without help, if his plan was realistic? That's actually why we created the Executagility model. This is the story from when we began that. We went into Brad's company, we assessed his team, we figured out that they couldn't do 30 things at the same time, they could really only do 2. We helped them prioritize what those 2 would be, and we created a structured process for them to execute. I'm happy to say that by the end of the fiscal, they invoiced the $3.4 million, and Brad was able to get out of the weeds. His team was executing, and he visited those new customers who are now his customers. So the great thing about this project, though, is we can redo it. What was true for Brad's team in June is not the same thing that's true for them at the beginning of October. Now things have shifted. Organizations are living and breathing. We need to continually reassess what they can do. And the great thing about technology today, which was not true 2 years ago, is that instead of paying for very expensive consulting fees to come in and do this for you, create this assessment and do all these things, we can now put this on an AI-enabled web-based platform. So imagine that you are an employee in a company and you're taking a very quick chatbot type assessment to find out if you have the vision and the alignment to be able to do the work, and that's reported back to the leadership team. They can create a plan everybody is aligned to, and people can actually execute. This is an amazing opportunity, and I would love to share why. We've already delivered what I'm calling the enterprise level, which is consultant-led implementation of this process. I know there's a free version of the assessment that we can get people to take. I've actually had them take it. The real opportunity is in the middle, with a product that is something people pay for as a subscription, and they get these services internally. They don't have to pay for extra consulting support. Possibly there's a bit of an advanced version where they're getting a coach, because everybody knows that with accountability, it's very hard to keep things going. And as I mentioned, small, medium businesses affected the most. There's 650,000 small, medium businesses in the country, and 7 out of 10 of them do not know what their execution capability is. So even if we only got 3% of that market, it's a $100 million opportunity. But we're going to start with an industry segment that my firm already knows well, which is the heavy equipment industry. We've been working with them on system implementations. I have a lot of relationships in that field, so we're going to start there. If you think about competition for this, it's either do it yourself like Brad did, right, and crash and burn. It might be cheap, but it's not going to work. On the other end of the spectrum, you could hire a full internal project management office. You could get some PMs, you could pay them full time. Now you have governance, you have overhead, you have structure, and you have overhead and burden. That's very expensive, hard to manage. We believe that Executagility is the most effective and economical solution out there. Here's my team. I've been running a consulting practice that focuses on project management for over 18 years. I have a chief product officer who's worked on SaaS businesses for both startups and enterprise level. We have a CTO, if some of you know, Nick Walsh, here local in Orlando. And I already have a team that can deliver the coach services when needed. I'm also being advised by some pretty spectacular humans. The help I need from this group, we're not looking for funding right now, we're bootstrapping. I do, though, need a part-time technologist that can spend more time on the business for sweat equity. I would love introductions to people in the heavy equipment space at the CXO level. And in general, I'm looking to speak. I'm looking for those types of opportunities with CEO roundtables and conferences, etc. And I would love it if every single one of you would pull out your phones and take a QR code and scroll to the bottom of our website and sign up for our newsletter, where I'll be happy to give you updates on how this project goes in the future. Thanks for listening. Hi, myself.
Hey, Sean, go ahead.
This is one of the best presentations I've ever heard. I'm not kidding.
Today.
This is the right thing to do. I'm glad that two ladies doing it.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I want to spend some time.
I'd love to. Thank you.
So you have agility in the name. Is that because you use agile, or is that you're just being agile with the execution of people?
We do use agile in the execution process. And the name was because, here we go, here's another story. I was swimming in October of 2022, and I was like, what can I trademark? That's not a real word. And I came up with Executagility, and I realized it's a 7-syllable word, and we're probably going to have to change it. But I already trademarked it, and I got a company after it, but we'll figure the real brand out. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But yes, there is true agile in the process. Thank you for asking.
I think the name's fine.
Even though it's a 7-syllable word.
Hey, I was able to say it.
You said it great.
So.
Yes.
Would fractional CXOs fit into your spectrum of people you'd like to, like if there was a couple of fractional?
Thank you for asking. Let me think about that.
Thank you for presentation. It's really beautiful. I understand. Can you give me an example where Asana or
Yes, thank you. I'm so glad you asked that question. I can't even tell you how glad I am, because I was like, Josh is like, you have to go on the one side and the other side. So it, to me, and tell me if you think I'm off here. Let's say that you have a really great sports car parked in your garage.
Excuse me, I don't want to cut the difference between it's more like
Let me answer why I put that in one bucket. The reason is because they're all software. So back to my analogy of the sports car. If you never use it, does it matter that you spent $100 million on this amazing sports car? No, right? This is the same for any software, whether it's technical, whether it's user-friendly, doesn't matter. When you buy Asana, you buy Jira, you buy anything, it sits in your database of systems that your company pays for. You still have to set it up. You still have to train people on it. You have to develop a process in which to utilize it. We can work with any of the software. We have done this in Jira. We have done it in Asana. We have done it on Teams. We've done it with spreadsheets. It doesn't actually matter. And that's why I say it's a myth. It's a completely different product. We're not competing with the software.
Yeah.
Oh, but I think Denny had a question here first.
What's your typical sales pitch? Say you get in front of the CEO of these companies, what are you going to?
I'm going to start with, please tell me how you feel your team is executing to your vision. Actually, I'll probably start with, what's your vision for your company? What's your timeline for that? And then we go from there.
Yeah, I can see why you lumped ClickUp and Jira and Twilio in, because I think a lot of companies use them as project management, which is kind of the wrong thing to do. It's just kind of items to
They're great
execute.
tools. They are
Exactly.
terrific tools, and I don't want to try and get better than that, because honestly, that would be way too expensive. I'm not the next Asana.
So when it comes to why you're working with heavy equipment, can you just kind of give me an idea of what that really is? Because heavy equipment to me means like a tractor.
100%, that's what it is.
Forklift.
Volvo trucks, diggers, forklifts. So we've been working with Burns equipment, Scott equipment, Fairchild equipment. I could keep going. These are and thank you for asking, Brent. The common type of business that's helpful for us to work with is one that doesn't have a PMO, so they don't already have their own little internal team. Because if they do, they really aren't going to buy this. They never will. They also, though, want to grow and scale. So it's helpful to be in a market that is somewhat fragmented, as a heavy equipment industry currently is, a lot of mom and pop that are rolling up into PE owned, private equity owned businesses, because those private equity are trying to grow and scale. And they need to grow and scale with the same team that keeps the lights on. Basically, that's operating and running the business. And so those are the types of companies that we need to work with. And it just so happens that because I do system selection and implementation with the ERP thing, we've gotten involved with E-Emphasis, which is a big ERP vendor and works for heavy equipment dealers.
That was gonna be my question.
If you've been consulting on this for 15 years, you must have a good handle on it, but I'm just curious, do your customers recognize the need that you're solving?
That's a great question. And the answer is not always, no. And that's why I feel like the free assessment, it needs to be an education first. When I have presented on this and I ask them, what's your vision? What's your timeline? What are all the projects? We have a great tool for all these things. I walk people through it. And then all of a sudden they're like, wow, I put IT Tim on 5 projects and I want him to spend 10 hours a week on every one of those projects. Well, that by itself is 50 hours a week of IT Tim's time. Plus IT Tim keeps the servers going and answers the cybersecurity questions and handles the email problems. That's already a 30-hour-a-week project. And then their eyes become open. Crap, no wonder I'm not getting anything out of IT Tim, right? So you're right, they don't immediately see the problem.
I think that your logo sitting there tells everything I need to know. That is the competitive edge. It's you. You are an executioner. You are making the life simple, doesn't matter. There's no competition as far as I'm concerned. You shouldn't worry about it. You are making the life simple and delivering it. And I think that executioner, like Albert Einstein, not Albert Einstein, Thomas said, innovation without execution is
Hallucination. Oh my gosh, Sean, I literally had that as the quote on this slide until I took it out because Josh was like.
That's it. You have everything there. I'm not kidding. You have everything. You are the competitive edge, period. Okay, thank you.
Jenny?
They're not reinventing the wheel either. I was in the consulting business 50, 60 years ago, and even back then, what you wanted to do with a new customer was get a study. So you could show them, these are the problems that you have you're not even aware of.
That's right.
And then the whole functionality comes after that.
That's exactly right, Denny, and that's why we're starting with an assessment. And the nice thing, as I mentioned with today's technology and AI, is it doesn't have to be me doing it in my head and charging them by the hour anymore.
Have you already built your AI assessment?
I built the assessment, but it is not in the AI currently. In fact, I'm going to see Nick right after this. I'm like, Nick, we got to get this thing moving. So thank you for asking.
What's your biggest challenge right now?
My biggest challenge is I am still running my consulting practice. And that is a divided hat that I'm wearing because it's a completely different business model. So my current plan for 2024 is to get our technology built. I'm starting to speak to Vistage and other groups, and like you guys saw the help that I need. And in the middle of the summer, I have one of my consultants coming free that I'm going to groom to be the principal of AJC, and then I'm going to move on to this full time.
Are you applying your own practices internally?
100%, we use it every day. We've got 3 different projects going with the backlog. Yes, with Executagility.
That's not a crazy question. There's a lot
No.
of companies that produce this
I appreciate your asking. It works for us
don't use it
too.
themselves. Yeah.
So when this is up and running and a business owner or CEO can find you, what is the problem that they've identified before they'll come to you? Like what's that frustration or that pain point that, because you said they're often not even aware of the problem that they have and why they're having it. So what are they aware of?
They're aware that when they have their vision and their plan, a couple of months later they hear excuses. There's delay. They don't see results. And the biggest pain point, like Brad had, is at that time they need to put everything else on hold, or they feel they do, and jump in. And that is when it becomes painful for them. So the best sale for us is a company who's a seasoned professional at the top, who's seen this cycle happen a few times, and would recognize there's got to be a better way. I don't want to put plans in place only to have 6 months worth of delay that I'm paying for. I want to put in the right plan in the beginning.
So what role does documentation play in the services that you provide?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Everything is documented. It's fully transparent. That's why we can measure every result, every task completed, and we measure our improvements as well in the retrospective process through Agile.
Does that include development of policies and procedures for the individual clients?
This is a process we have used to develop policies and procedures, but the product is not the project you're running. The product is the process. Mm-hmm. right? So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but we have done those things, but that's not the product we're
Because
selling.
it helps them utilize your project. Your
Absolutely,
product even
yeah,
better.
and that's actually a really great thing to do. The two main case studies we've done this for on the enterprise, right, us going in level are document all your processes. And when you put in an ERP system and you have the laundry list of things you want to do, what do you do first? How do you make sure it's accomplished?
Sure.
Those are the two best case studies we've had.
So you mentioned about the part-time technologist sweat equity. So does that turn into equity over a period of time?
Oh, 100%. I mean, this is a business that is a different model than my consulting practice. I really want it to be, I mean, it's a huge opportunity, as you see. So yes, it turns into real equity.
I can refer something.
Yes.
I think you kind of answered with my first question, but I was just going to ask, what happens after you guys have identified the problems, got too many projects, you know, like, are you just giving them the information? Like, this is why you want it? I might have missed that.
No, thank you for asking. I couldn't spend a lot of time on the product itself. So imagine that you, as CEO, have a certain awareness about your company, and you think that your team is able to do your 5 really important projects this quarter. And then you're able to get the information unbiased about what your C-suite also thinks. Do they think the same 5 projects, right? Do they think that you can get it done? And then you can get down to the first level manager. So, you know, your CFO has answered, your controller is now answering, and your accounts payable and receivable, who are actually the people configuring your improved process on your system. So the value of the report that you will get is, instead of a consultant spending 1 hour with 50 people, you've got a chatbot spending 15 minutes at the same time, and the algorithm now looks at both empirical individual results as well as cross results to see how aligned they are, to say your company is capable of performing 1 out of these 5 projects, and actually 0% are aligned on what they think is the most important one.
So the product is a report?
The chatbot is the first thing that you would do. Then you'd be on the platform, you'd see the report as the CEO, and then you get recommendations. Because you're unaligned about the most important project, you should. So those are the types of things you'd be getting. Yes.
Andrea, I'm gonna.
And you're gonna have to cut me off. Yeah.
Well, and I'm gonna nitpicky on this slide.
Yeah.
This slide particularly, where you're talking about artificial intelligence and incorporating it and wanting to bring it in as something that's a useful tool and not, for lack of a better word, a load of crap. And your image has your guy walking through the table.
Chat GPT created this thing for me, so thank you for pointing that out.
And it's just, I mean, I understand kind of
That's really funny.
the purpose of having an AI generated image in this be very, very, very detail oriented when you're doing something like this, because if the wrong person sees that, they're gonna go, they can't even do that right.
I appreciate that, Scott. That is great feedback. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And I've come up against that in other companies where that little attention to detail actually shows how they do things. You know, there's an old adage, how you do anything.
I believe that's true, and I really appreciate that. Probably the most valuable feedback.
I think it says the robots aren't really actually going to take over yet.
or they can walk through tables, which means more frightening. Mary?
Yes. I was wondering, so some companies do have value, some companies don't, and I was wondering, where do you start the assessment? After the values, or do you do some value assessments of the company?
This is not trying to replace human consultants and the vision, the values, the mission, those types of alignments. This is execution. To the point of any sort of vision without execution is hallucination. The way that it typically runs is companies, they're doing very poorly, but until they've started to get some kind of tangible results in their projects, nobody cares what your values are anyway. I'm sorry.
Can you clarify where the recommendations are coming from? Is it AI taking the information that they've gathered from, you know, the team and generating recommendations for this specific business, or is it somebody on your team, a person, reading the report of AI gathered data and then making recommendations to the CEO? How is that happening?
Thank you for asking that. And it's possible some of the recommendations will come out of the assessments, because you can always ask people, what do you think is a good idea? But most of them will be project management recommendations based on project management experience and expertise. So we know, for example, in order to get a project done, you need to have one person who's the sponsor, one person who's the project manager. You need to have a team who's defined with clear roles and responsibilities, which we know what those can be. You need to know how much time it's going to take them to do their things. You need to document their tasks. You need to follow up. So all the recommendations are based on our experience as project managers. They're project management recommendations, how to manage your projects. They're not specifically like you're doing the wrong project in your industry, although I could see it going there in the future. That's not what it's going to start with.
Are you providing your consulting service? That's still a...
When we get to, and thank you for asking that, the advanced and enterprise level products, yes, it's an option, right? I already mentioned we've done this 10 times in the last 2.5 years at this level without any free chatbot, artificial intelligence, anything in this season. So if a company says, hey, I'm starting at this freebie, this is great, I want to upgrade to here, wow, this is great, I'm seeing these results, but my team's not really accountable, I want to coach, then we can do that. That's easier for us to scale. I can have one consultant coach 20 customers. And if they want the full meal deal, just like implementing any ERP system, you can get a lot of consultants helping.
Denny, and then I'm going to wrap up.
A lot of this is really basically, it's easier to look in somebody else's backyard. When you've got an original backyard, there's all sorts of crap in there. There's sacred cows and so on and so forth. And you might be the CEO and you know what your company needs to do, but you want to hire a consultant to come in to basically tell you what you already know, because then not only can you blame it on them, but you're probably going to be able to do it too.
Yeah.
You can't implement it yourself. And these people help you do that.
Yeah, getting them from a free, I'm iffy on if anything, it all should be free, but
Thank
to
you, Ms.
this,
Brian Helgen.
in making it not okay to not move to the next level is a
My product coach suggested having something that people pay me for while I sleep, right? So not as many companies can afford consulting services. I know I'm a consulting company, right? The biggest problem is how expensive you are, even when you're part-time. So people, though, pay for things like Netflix that they don't even watch all the time. So, that's the revenue driver is the freebie money, if you will.
You did a good job on the other slide. But is there anything else specific that, as the Orlando 1 Million Cups community, we can do for you?
Really, those heavy equipment dealers, I'm looking to network as much as I can.
Okay.
Sorry.
That is a good product.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Once again, we are looking for speakers for next week. So if you've come here for a few weeks and you feel comfortable and you've got a business that you're working on, our general criteria is you're under 5 years in age in the business, or this particular iteration of the business, and you're looking at your next level of growth and you are open to feedback. Our two presenters today were great examples of people that are open to feedback. So that's fantastic. That's what we're looking for. So if you've got if you've got a company, or if you know of somebody that you think would be a great candidate to come in and present, please get them in touch with us and have them go to 1millioncups.com and register. Join us on meetup.com. That is where the latest information is going to be. It's going to be the most correct. If there's any mistakes in there, point them out to us and we'll try to fix them. And connect with somebody. You've taken off the morning, there's still a little bit of morning left. Go and have coffee with somebody and get to know someone who you've met today and exchange information about each other's business and work to help build the community together. We thank you very much, and I'm actually going to give everybody a couple minutes back today, but we look forward to seeing you here next week.